Ryan Pauly here. This is part 2, discussing a conversation I recently had on Instagram. So you can go back to part 1 and you can watch the content and as I discuss the content of that conversation. Also, you can check out the conversation at my Instagram channel at RyanPauly3. But right now I want to discuss 2 things. Why I generally don't have conversations on Instagram, but what you can learn from them. And then secondly, how to go about having conversations, whether they're online, on social media, or not. Now, generally, when I started doing apologetics, I had a lot of conversations on social media, especially Twitter. And this did help, I think, at the beginning on seeing the objections that people were making, actually getting into conversations and practicing some of those skills. But what I quickly realized is this: most people on social media are not super open to changing their minds. It's also much more likely you're going to find someone who is rude because there's kind of that screen between them. There's that sense of, them not knowing who you are that is very different than if you're having a conversation face to face. So with my theme, my channel, Coffee House Questions, I want to sit down in a coffee house and have that face-to-face conversation. But if you do find yourself on a social media conversation discussion, remember this: you may not convince the other person that you're having the conversation with, but other people are watching. They're seeing how you interact, and part of being a Christian ambassador is a Christian character. And so make sure you maintain your character, because other people are watching and other people might see that. And that's why I ended up having this conversation on Instagram. I was brought into it because of some students tagged me in it, and I wanted to model and show that this guy's arguments were not grounded. I did not want these students to be convinced by his bad arguments. I wanted to not only model a conversation, but I wanted to show them that this guy did not have any evidence. And so you can learn some things from them, but I would be weary on having social media conversations. Try to stick to person. Now, how do I have these conversations? Here's one really important tactic, and that is the burden of proof. In this conversation, the guy I was talking with, I assume was a guy, maybe a girl, but the person I was talking with kept trying to throw the burden of proof back on me, but I never made a claim, and so I don't bear the burden of supporting a claim that I never made. This person made the claim that Jesus is a recycled, dying, and rising God. And so he has to support that claim. And so I kept asking similar questions to, like, how did you come to that conclusion? What is your evidence? Can you give me any evidence? And he kept pointing me to all these stories, as I discussed before, but I said, no, give me evidence, and here's the evidence I'm looking for. At one point, he got frustrated, and then he turned it back on me and said, well, you prove your Bible. Now, I never defended the Bible. I was not defending inerrancy. I never said I believed in it, which I do. I wasn't defending inspiration, and I do believe in that, but I didn't say that. I never made the claim. And so I said, look, the Bible right now is not the topic of this discussion. I'm simply looking for your evidence, because you made this claim, and if your claim is true, that's a big deal to Christianity, and I want to be open to searching out that evidence. And so be careful in your conversations that oftentimes they try to throw the burden back on you, and that is the power of asking questions. You can enter into conversations, ask good questions, get information from other people, see what their evidence is, and you can have the freedom of thought knowing you don't have to know all the answers, because if you don't make a claim, you don't have to defend that claim. Now, hopefully there are times where you do make claims like Jesus is God and you need to believe in him, and then we can defend those claims. But if you're just starting in apologetics, you're just starting in evangelism and having these conversations, ask good questions. And if they make the claim, they bear the burden to prove their claim. You just need to ask how they came to those conclusions. I hope this helps and gives you some confidence as you go out as ambassadors of Christ.